Everyone. I am Monica Morrissey, owner of Intuitive Wellness and the author of 3 books. My first book is Dimes from Heaven: How Coins and Coincidences Help Me Discover My Life as an Empath. And this is where my spiritual journey started. My second book is More Dimes from Heaven: A Journey to Self Publishing. It shares all about my writing journey, which I never planned to do, and also gives you tips and things to think about if you want to publish your own book. And then my third book, my third baby, is Once Upon a Dime: Heaven is Talking to Us. Do you know how to listen? And this gives you all the tools that you need in order to get a sign from your loved one in heaven. And these are lots of great stories. Chapter 8 is very similar to this class that I'm going to be sharing today. So if you're interested in the brain science, this is a great book. So I learned a lot more about the brain and how my brain was thinking. And it was all fear based. It was totally in fear. In my first book, Dimes from Heaven, you hear my fear about sharing my true self. And after that, I got really curious about that other voice inside my head that seemed to be talking to me all the time. And so I wanted to share this information that I've learned through this journey because I really feel like there's a lot of mental health issues out there and people are really struggling. And we've had some suicides recently that it's so hard. If people understood their brain more, then maybe they would be able to shut it down and and change their thoughts. So this class is free today because I just feel like people need to hear this information. And after this class, if you feel like you want to work with me more to dive into how your brain is running and thinking and to be able to repattern some of that, please reach out to me. I'm offering a $50 30-minute session online so that we can use some techniques that I have in my coaching business and coaching practice or Reiki business and be able to help you get out of this whatever funks that is going on. So, ever wonder why our brain seems to be talking to us all the time? Do you have that little voice inside your head? Let's learn exactly what's happening and how to make sure we connect to our true selves. So, this is going to be filled with lots of good information. So, let's keep moving. So, these are the things that you're going to learn. You're going to learn the difference between your mind and your soul. You're going to learn how the polyvagal nerve affects everything we do, understand why our brain does what it does, learn how our hearts and brains are connected, learn how to understand and reprogram the evidence loop, learn strategies to rewire our thought patterns, and understand the different brainwave states and how they relate to our nervous system. So we've got a lot going on here. So before we start, I just want you to write down 5 things that you're thinking about right now. Anything that's on your mind. It could be your grocery list. It could be something you want to remember for later, whatever it is. I just want you to take a few seconds. So you can pause the video, write those down, and then continue on. So the first thing that I want to point out to you about your brain is that your brain in your conscious mind is only 10%. So right now, I'm giving you information. I'm using my conscious brain. I'm not doing anything. Well, I'm doing a lot of things with my subconscious, but I'm working from my brain. The 90% of how you function, how you talk, how you move is all in your subconscious. And so what we picked that up over the years, like when you're little and you see babies act like their parents, right? So all of those were programmed into me years and years ago. And so now I'm working to kind of reprogram some of those subconscious things that were circling around and that I didn't even know were there. And so we have to understand that 90% of how we act and respond is just kind of built into our system, and we just respond to events the similar that we've always responded to. So neuro linguistic programming shows that whatever events that you have happened in your life, they formed your subconscious beliefs. And so sometimes when things happen to us, we're actually remembering back from another time, and that time is what triggers us of how we're going to respond to an event. So all of our experiences are different, right? And yours have been like downloaded into your brain and your body. Okay, so this is one thing that I love talking about. So your ego, and some people say that it's called edge God out. And here I'm not talking about God as like a religious entity, like a big man in the sky judging you. I'm talking about spirit, and about like there's something happening that's magical in this universe, right? Like how do trees grow and how do flowers bloom? All those things are, related to our universe, which I could call it spirit, you can call it God, whatever that you want. But your ego is your brain, and it's that little voice inside your head telling you things. It is constantly trying to keep you safe. So every thought that you have is based on fear, because that's how our brains were programmed, and that's your ego talking. And it's just that's the program that we were created with. Otherwise, we would have died, right? We would have been able, not been able to run from the lions and tigers and bears, because we wouldn't remember that the lion was a scary thing. So that's just trying to keep you safe. Your soul is the feeling you feel within yourself, like a glowing light of love. And that's where my work all brings us back to our soul, instead of our brain going wild with thoughts, because we get so trapped in our thoughts that it's hard to remember who we were. So your ego's main job is to keep you safe. So it constantly feeds you ideas of fear. It doesn't want you to feel too vulnerable, because that might not be safe. It keeps you from being your true self. It fears change. It likes to feel comfortable. It tells you lies about yourself, mostly beating yourself up. I want to go back to this comfortable thing. So whatever your life is like, anytime that you change it, it will think that it's uncomfortable, so you won't feel right. So then you go back to the old way, because the new way didn't feel comfortable. So your ego will say, no, 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 no. Okay, I've been a negative Nelly for my whole life. If I try to go into a positive mode, what's going to happen? And your ego will say, oh, none of that stuff. We don't know that stuff. We're not programmed for that. It won't shut up. It keeps playing the same thoughts over and over like a broken record. It's not really nice or kind. It keeps you in fight or flight, so your nervous system never relaxes. On the other hand, your soul wants you to connect with a higher purpose, experience pure joy and bliss, wants you to be in the present moment rather than, ruminating on the past and not thinking, getting stressed out about the future. It wants you to walk outside and feel connected to Mother Earth. It wants you to let go of past mistakes, and it wants you to dream bigger than you ever imagined possible. It wants you to feel a deep sense of relaxation. It wants to turn to love instead of fear. And it wants to have your nervous system calm and relaxed. Doesn't that sound amazing? I can help you with that. Let me know. How do I shut up my ego and return to my soul? You give your ego a name, like bitch or asshole. Tell it to stop talking. You say, thank you for the warning, but I don't need this warning right now, because otherwise it's just going to keep circling and keep circling, right? So you rewire the direction it was traveling in by changing your thoughts. So an example is, you said some stupid things during that meeting yesterday at work. Why'd you do that? What were you thinking? How are you ever going to show your face again? I don't know about you, but I've had those meetings where I come back and say, oh crap, why did I do that? So the rewire is to say, well, maybe I shouldn't have said those things during the meeting, but I did, and it is over now. I'm moving on. If I feel like I need to apologize to anyone, I will. But right now, I am safe and I'm going to enjoy my day. There's nothing that you can do about that meeting other than, if you need an apology or something, but it's done. It's over. So let it go. Okay, so the polyvagal nerve is just been fascinating. So this is the work that I've been doing in my public school education job, and I started studying this about 5 years ago. And it's just fascinating how the polyvagal nerve runs, from your brain all the way down to the base of your spinal cord, and it affects everything. So if you think about the polyvagal nerve sending messages to your brain that you're in trouble or something, um, it's going to make your heart rate beat faster, right? Like, so when you're in a traumatic situation, you're going to, all your organs are going to like pump adrenaline, right? And you're going to go into, fight or flight, and you're going to, make sure that you're safe. The other way that you want to do is try to get into rest and digest stage instead of fight or flight. And we're going to talk more about that. So this is the polyvagal theory, that when we're up in here in shame or shutdown or hopelessness or trapped, helplessness, depression, you are not able to be social, like social engagement, and you're not going to be able to connect with other people because you're going to be just in this fight or flight. Your heart rate is going to be up, your blood pressure, everything is like it's just not even possible to function. So that is like your life is being threatened. But then there's down here where fight and flight. So this was actually freeze, fight and flight. The easiest emotion is anger. So anytime that you feel something and then you turn into anger, that's your fight or flight. And that is super important because have you ever, lashed out at somebody and then been like, oh boy, I probably shouldn't have done that, right? And so you have to go back and you have to clean up that mess. But also, somebody who is raging at you or has a lot of anger, they're in that fight or flight moment and they cannot function like they normally would. Their blood pressure, their heart rate, their adrenaline, their oxygen is all going on high alert because they feel threatened. Whether or not the other person meant to threaten them or not, that doesn't matter. If the person feels threatened, then they will usually go towards anger because that's the easiest thing to do. When you're socially engaged, you're settled, you're grounded, you have calmness, you're curious, you're compassionate, you're mindful of the present moment, you're not remembering, you're not bringing the past into the present moment, you're just enjoying the moment. And this is really good for your digestion. This is good for all of your organs. It's really hard to get back to that after a traumatic experience. So we've all had traumatic experiences, whether it was a big T or a small T. Even a small T, like a little toddler, we hold those into our bodies and our minds and our subconscious, those events that happened, and then they spur us to act certain ways. Okay, so polyvagal theory is so fascinating. I could talk about this for hours. Okay, so the key is to recognize the rabbit hole. When I say the rabbit hole is when your brain just goes down this rabbit hole and it creates these stories, okay? Because our minds love story loops. And so if something happens, we're going to create a story about it, and then our body and our mind and everything believes that story. Whether or not that story is true or not, it doesn't matter. You went down this rabbit hole, your brain created this story, and we're going to talk about evidence loops in just a bit. It created this theory, and then it created a story to back up the theory. It's kind of like we used to do let me think, persuasive essays in school. The kids used to have to do a persuasive essay. So a lot of times it was like, oh, mommy and daddy, I want a dog, and convincing their parents to get a dog. Well, your brain is trying to convince you of something, and it's doing a great job, and it's going down a rabbit hole into trying to keep you safe. And so, but the story may or may not be true. And so you have to recognize when your brain is going wild. because our brain holds on to information like Velcro and Teflon. Velcro is the negative things, and Teflon is the positive things. Literally, the negative you could have, let's say I'm an author and I got an Amazon review and I get 1,000 great reviews on my book, but I get one-star review. What do you think my brain is going to hold on to? It's going to hold on to that one negative piece of information because I feel threatened. And when you feel threatened, you don't feel safe. And so it wants to hold that information in my brain because I don't want to get eaten by the lion or the tiger or the bear. And that one-star review is like a lion or tiger or bear to me. And so what you have to do is we have to train our brains to hold on to the good stuff like Velcro and let the negative stuff slip off. Now, I can talk this, but I have to tell you in real life, this is super hard. So just know that I have some strategies if you want more help with this. But, one simple thing is to just write down your gratitudes each day. And that helps you to see the positive things that are happening in your life, even if you've got a couple of negative things. So lists and more lists. Your brain is like a computer software with programs running in the background. 90% of what you do on a daily basis is your subconscious programming running your life. So you want to clear out some space. So by writing out what you have to remember, it's going to help your brain be clear and be able to relax. So write things down that you don't have to remember the information. Filter what is important to remember and delete what you don't need to remember. Let go of the stories or the rabbit holes that your brain keeps rewinding in your head. So that is super hard to do. Sounds easy, but in reality, it is a challenge and it's a fight every day for me. So did I go backwards? Yes. Okay. So feel, perceive, act. All actions start in the heart and then sends a signal to the brain. Then our brain perceives the information based on past experience, which causes us to act on the perceived information. So this is what I was saying about earlier. So however we come upon a situation in our life, it's going to be filtered through our own personal experiences. Now, right now, I'm 54 years old. I've had a lot of experiences. I have had some things that have happened to me over the years. And so I have a different view than, say, a 20-year-old who's just starting out and not understanding different things. So 90% of how our brains operate is based on our subconscious programming. We are reacting to events around us with old programming. And the Egyptians used to think that the heart was the most valuable part of our body. And they actually didn't even care about the brain. Remember, they pulled the brain out. Actually, I used to study this with my kids, and they used to pull their brain out with the nose through the nose because they didn't think the brain was important. And so HeartMath Institute has a free course on how to get in touch with your heart energy and help you to rewire your brain. And it's fascinating information because everything that we're responding to is actually coming from our heart. We think that it's coming from our brain. We think that we're thinking and we're doing, but actually the heart is sending us this instant information and it's picking up on all the clues around us, and then it's triggering our brain to react. So the key to not reacting to events with old program is to hit the pause button. If you pause, allow your body to feel whatever that you're feeling, and then move forward with whatever that you are going to do. That will help you change from Velcro to Teflon, and it will help you respond in a more intentional way with integrity. Okay, so when a thought appears, ask yourself, where did this idea come from? Why do I think this? What feeling do I have inside me that created this idea? Is this based on any past experiences? Is there another way to think about this? Am I trying to escape a feeling by turning towards something else? So I know that a lot of people, when they're experiencing grief, actually turn towards anger. And anger is like the easiest escape because now I'm angry, somebody did me wrong. I'm going to go after them. It distracts from what you're really feeling. And so if we just sat with the grief instead of getting angry, then life would be different. So being willing to understand your perception is hard work, but it's the only way to understand how your brain thinks and the only way to change your perceptions. So I always feel like I have two voices in my head. One that's giving me lots of information all the time, ping, 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 ping. And then one that is just like, just calm down and slow down. And I've learned, over the years to like control that ping, 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 that craziness that's going on. Okay, so let's work this backwards. So act, perceive, feel. So it was feel, perceive, act, right? We feel first with our hearts, and we perceive it based on our experiences, and then we do an action. So I had to pause. I reached for the chips. I absolutely love chips. Like they are my thing. I eat very healthy, but I still eat chips. And I was reaching for the chips and I was like, wait a second, what is going on here? Why am I reaching for these chips? And I was like, oh, okay. Let me think. What just happened right before that triggered me reaching for the chips? And it was I got a crappy email like that. I wasn't sure. You know how like you read a text message or an email and it comes across wrong to you? Well, that's what I had done. And it was based on past experiences, right? I had gotten a couple of other emails that were really bad. And so it was just like, oh, like it hit me. And then I turned to the chips. That was my way of escaping that feeling. But if I really felt what I was feeling like there was a crocodile about to eat me. And that came through in the email. And so I was able to like stop, realize that I was trying to check out with food. I'm a recovering alcoholic. And so I have been sober for 24 years and it's totally changed my life because I used to try to check out with alcohol. I used to, you know, when I was feeling, insecure or whatever, I wasn't feeling good, boom, have a drink and it will just numb me up. And so I still eat chips, but I don't eat them in an emotional sense where I am avoiding that feeling. So recognizing that you have a feeling first. And then if you do something, you can kind of go back and track it and say, well, okay, if I did this, what was I actually feeling during that time? So again, the pause. So theory-based evidence loop. So our brain loves to create a theory and then it looks for evidence. And so my biggest takeaway for this is that if you want to create evidence that's in a more positive way, then you need to start thinking about positive theories because whatever theory that we create actually sends out like a radio signal to the universe. Boom, this is what I'm thinking. And boom, it will come back to you and it will say, yes, you are correct. And so you want to be careful about your thoughts because you are sending out a radio signal to everyone around you, to the universe, everything. You're saying, this is what I would like. And even if it isn't something that you want, but if you're thinking about it and you're creating that theory and you're creating that story inside your brain, the evidence will show up, whether it's positive or negative. The example that I give a lot is that I get a lot of clients who say, I've never gotten a sign from spirit, from my dad or my husband. Yep, you won't get a sign because you are sending out to the universe that you don't get a sign. So the universe is going to give you exactly what you're thinking about. So be careful of the theory that you're creating, because those stories, when you go down that rabbit hole and you're creating stories about other people or other things, then it could come back to you. So creating new theory evidence loops. Instead of, I'm so worried about money, try this. I am so grateful that I had money to pay my bills this month. I am grateful for the change in my car because I was able to buy coffee at the store. So even those quarters that you find laying around, you got to be grateful for them, because that signals to the universe, I would like more. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more money as long as you're using it in a wise way. Another one is, instead of, she's always so mean to me, I hate it when she acts like that, she always does this. Do you see how that just sent a message to the universe that this person always does this? So guess what's going to happen? So instead of that, maybe say, I wonder if she's having a bad day today. I wonder if something might be stressing her out. Maybe I misunderstood. Did she create a boundary that I didn't like by saying no to something I wanted? Just kind of like redesigning the story, and like the story that you're telling yourself. Reframing your thoughts, or our thoughts, takes such practice. It is hard work. It's just like playing soccer. You have to spend the time practicing. So rewiring is hard work. Oops. Doop, 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 doop. Okay. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Change your neurons to create more positive thoughts. Reboot the operating system. This is my favorite book. The answers are in your body, not your mind. And I will say that it's your mind sending messages to your body. So breaking the habit of being yourself explains that if you are used to thinking negative thoughts and receiving negative evidence back, the only way out is to reprogram your mind and to lose that part of you and really do it intentionally and let go. And Joe Dispenza has a lot of free videos and meditations that will help you. And our body loves patterns. Did you know that your body creates chemicals every time you have a thought, and that your body gets used to those chemicals and wants more and more? So that stress, cortisol, if it's used to cortisol, it will want more. It's very much like a drug. And so if you're used to being in stress mode, your body will say, okay, let's get stressed. Let's find something to get stressed about. It literally will look for it. And so it's time to rewire. You want your energy in your body to be like this. I will say that Reiki really helps. And if you ever want to learn Reiki, I go over some of this brain work so that you can use Reiki to help your energy. Okay. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, is this going to work? Hopefully.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. the proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, "Who's chasing you?" But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribes for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, so the question is, what good things happened in the video? So you can notice that it might be more Velcro things, like he got cut off, he got angry, he, noticed his anger. All the negative things are sticking, right? But if you think about it, him and his kid, the driver and the kids were safe, right? They actually didn't hit the car. And so, like, just realizing that those two things, those are what we have to search for. We have to grab those that are slipping off on the Teflon instead of Velcroing all the negative. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the different brainwave states. So gamma is heightened problem-solving abilities and perception. So our brains are constantly trying to solve problems. They're creating theories and evidence, but they're also trying to solve every problem that you think that you see. Your beta is your normal waking state. You're alert and ready to work critically and logically. Alpha is deep relaxation, light meditation. That's where your creative and inspiration ideas appear. Theta is deep relaxation, almost asleep, a deep spiritual connection. And delta is a deep sleep, a place to access your subconscious mind. And so if you're getting dreams, that's in your delta state, your deep sleep. And that's signs. Dreams are messages from your soul. That's when your soul can get your attention because you're so busy during the day. And that's a great time to, get dreams and get visits from spirit. And if you're having lots of dreams, I do dream analysis, and it's fascinating. The dreams are not what you think that they are because they're coming from your subconscious. And it almost plays like a game of charades. Like you have to try to figure out what the meaning is. And I can help you do that because I've been trained in Jungian theory. Okay, so meditation relaxes your polyvagal nerve and move into alpha and theta brainwaves. These are all the things that meditation does. And it helps us pause during the feel, perceive, act cycle. When we wait for a moment, it actually changes our actions. So you can pause it if you didn't have time to read them all. Why do we like checking email or Facebook? The answer, the random reward. So anybody else like always going to their email? It's because you get a random reward once in a while. It's kind of like that piece of candy for the kid. You're going to get one email out of 100 that was good. And so you actually like crave that goodness. And so you're constantly searching for that. Most of our emails or Facebook aren't always that great, right? Okay, so key takeaways. Whoops. Our brains are wired to remember negative events so much so that we are able to stay safe, making sure we run from lions and tigers and bears. We have to train our brains to let some of the negative thoughts slip off like Teflon and not stick like Velcro. We have to practice searching for positive things so that we build that muscle, creating new evidence loops. We first feel with our hearts, which then signals to our brain. First, acknowledge the feeling, then evaluate your perception to see if it is actually true. This isn't just about being happy all the time, it's taking the time to evaluate our feelings and figure out where they are coming from. We have to learn how to get to rest and digest mode instead of fight, flight, or freeze mode, and that way is through meditation. One last thing, the universe is rather particular about the wording of our thoughts. The universe does not understand negative sentences. Example, I don't want to struggle with money. The universe hears, I want to struggle with money because it literally deletes the word don't. Another example is, I don't want cancer. The universe hears, I want cancer. Change it to, I am healthy. The universe believes the story inside you, even if it isn't true. The universe doesn't know it. See the above cancer story. I am healthy. Repeat it and believe it. Say it, think it, believe it, and the universe thinks it is true. Writing it down is even more powerful than just thinking. Starting your day with strategies helps your brain connect with your soul instead of your ego. Your breath work and positive mantras help. Now let's look at your list from the beginning. Are there any items on your list that you might think about differently? Are there any that would matter or you would remember 5 years from now? So anything that you were worried about that might pass, you need to think about that. And then put all thoughts into perspective. Life is abundant and good. So these are some resources, some great books. This Unfuck Your Brain book is fabulous. I highly suggest listening to it. It was hilarious, but also very informative. And if you want updates on all online courses, events, classes, and books, go to monicaLmorrissey.com. I love to help people in whatever way that I can. And I just want to say thanks for joining me today. And I hope that today was helpful. And I hope that if you're a parent, then you can, help teach your kids how to, observe your brain and be detached sometimes from some of those thoughts that might be consuming to you.